I messed up tonight. I lost another fight. I still mess up, but I'll just start again. I keep falling down. I keep on hitting the ground. I always get enough to see what's next. Birds don't just fly, they fall down and get up. Nobody learns without getting it wrong. I won't give up, no I won't give in till I reach the end and then I'll start again. No I won't leave, I wanna try everything, I wanna try even though I could fail.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Zootopia Minute, the minute-by-minute podcast where we review everyone's favorite non-furry animal movie, Zootopia. I am your co-host, Choco, and I'm joined, as always, by my other co-host.
Simul, what's up, guys? How you doing? Hope you're having a good one.
Technically, you're my only co-host, so I don't know what I mean by other co-host.
All we have is each other.
I know. Anyways, we are at minute 66. That is timestamp 10600 to 10659. And that starts right as we see the tiger pouncing at Nick and Judy. They're running scared. They see all these animals back and forth. We're going to cover this part. You know the drill. And it ends just as the door is opening. It looks like Nick and Judy are trying to run to the right of the screen to hide.
Yeah, so a lot of interesting stuff. We actually get to see a bunch of other missing animals here. There was that tiger pounced against the glass, and now it's become clear, like, hey, we're in a room where they're keeping animals, which apparently have gone savage.
That sounds like a zoo.
Yeah, I know. It's almost like a zoo, but
Just
it's
like
creepy.
the name of the city, Zootopia.
Yes, and they find Otterton. Basically, what we see is they're starting here, they're walking through the passage, they see all these other mammals in these cells. They're basically cells, right? Judy's kind of shining her light around and sees these guys. They find Monchus, and they find Emmett Otterton. Finally, we found the missing otter.
I know, it's the
Movie's
movie's
over.
going to end soon. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
the movie's going to end.
The whole movie's over right now.
I'm actually surprised because I'm looking at the timestamp slider, and it looks like we're only 2/3 of the way through the movie, even though they found their missing otter.
I know.
What more do we
else
need?
could possibly be going on now? Because
I know.
they find Otterton. Judy sort of tries to introduce herself, but Otterton is pretty out of it. He's in some sort of savage state, and Judy observes that, in fact, all of the missing animals are in this same room right before they're interrupted by a door opening as the minute ends. So this is really exciting. We're getting somewhere now. I think, like you said, we've found the mammals here. The movie should be over. We've discovered the mystery here, but it looks like much of the mystery is still left to be uncovered because we don't know who's running any of this stuff. We don't know what's going on. But let's take a dive into some of the more detail going on with this minute. So the very, very, very first thing that happens, as we've said, is that this tiger pounces against the glass, startling Nick. That's how our previous minute ended. Nick and Judy kind of continue to walk through these passages, and they see these other predators in these cells, all in a very savage state. And that's really is how I would describe them. They look like cells. It looks like they were specifically designed to keep people in, or in this case, keep animals in, which is kind of frightening. Is this what they actually have at like mental hospitals for real?
Only if you ask Scientology.
Oh gosh.
I don't know. I've never worked in a mental hospital, so actually, honestly, and I never had a chance to visit one.
I mean, this is nothing like the hospital they kept me in, but
So one thing I actually did want to point out is we see a black bear or a brown bear or a non-polar bear. That's all I want to say. We saw a non-polar bear in one of the cages.
Yeah, there's a lot of animals. And in front of each of these cells, there's like a clipboard with information kind of on who they all are.
It shows them wearing nice little suits in some cases.
Yeah, Nick was looking
photo.
at some of that. That's what I was going to say is like, this really does just look like an animal control center that you'd find in the real world. The only difference being that the animals have clothes on. Like, if not for that, it would just look like a zoo or an animal control center.
It just kind of reveals that they're furries because only furries wear clothing like that.
Some furries wear clothes. Okay. Yeah, so Judy's using her phone flashlight to look around here. We can see there's all these animals. As you mentioned, there's like a bear. We saw Monchus, so we found him. And then Judy approaches this one cell, And you can start to realize, hey, there's an otter in here, and who is it but Emmett Otterton? They first notice his missing broken glasses on the floor. Judy kind of shines her light up in his face, and he kind of like goes, wah, and like goes underneath a cart at the end of the room.
One thing I like that they got kind of right with how animals would behave in the dark is the reflection of the light on their dilated pupils, which is a very nice touch, because not only is that what you'll see in nature, it also gives them a little bit of a horror element, makes them a little bit scarier.
It does, and we were bringing this up, I believe, in the last live minute that we were doing at Everfree last year, where Monchis had, when he went savage, there was a change in his eyes. I think the eyes is where you first start to notice it. These anthro characters, like Nick and Judy, who aren't savage, you'll notice that like they have very obvious whites to their eyes, and it's very human looking. But once the animals go savage, they lose that. It starts to look more like a regular animal's eyes. We get that reflection like you're talking about, and you don't have the whites of the character's eyes filling up most of the visible part of their eye anymore. They really do look a lot more wild that way. And I think that's one of the most interesting things that the creators of this movie did in designing the characters, to sort of have this dichotomy between these animals are civilized, these ones are savage or uncivilized. They're animals. They're animalistic. I think that's like a really interesting way to do it. And I think we were talking when we were first seeing that in Monchis about how part of the psychology of that, if you can't see the whites of someone's eyes, you can't see where they're looking. And it sort of introduces this innate level of distrust or fear of the unknown. You don't know what they're looking at. You don't know what they're thinking, and therefore it's more frightening.
I do want to say that, okay, so otters naturally in nature are pretty cute. And I do like that when they show Emmett Otterton climbing out of the, from under the bunk bed. When they show Emmett Otterton climbing out from under the bed when Judy is trying to coax him out, he does look initially very, very cute, like an otter should in real life. And then he just kind of goes savage again. It's like kind of a jump scare. Not sure to say this is a cheap jump scare, but it is a jump scare.
I guess kind of. I mean, it's not particularly frightening. It's startling, perhaps.
Yeah, because there's such a big change from a cute-looking little otter to all of a sudden savage, manic attack.
Yeah. The other weird thing are the sounds that he's making. It sounds like a real-life otter, but it's this sort of high-pitched, snarling kind of thing that, you know, it doesn't sound like the timbre you would expect from a human's voice, or in our case, from the voice of these civilized animals. So I think that's another way the character designers, or I guess the sound designers in this case, says, how can we make it more clear these animals have really regressed? They've stepped backwards into savagery. And part of that is having these more animal-like sounds instead of a human-sounding voice. Because it's not like, it sounds as though they didn't even really, maybe it was a voice actor doing it. It could have been. Maybe they got like D. Bradley Baker or something. He's good at those noises, but it doesn't sound like a person doing that. It sounds like they could have easily taken recordings of an actual otter for that or something.
Yeah, and you actually see his clipboard. On the clipboard, you see him in his cute little otter suit.
Yeah, that's right. And, you know, he's obviously looking very disheveled here. His sweater is kind of missing. He's just got his pants on. He's under the bed snarling, and Judy remarks, "It's him. We found our otter." And then she sort of tries to talk to Otterton in a reassuring voice, says, "Mr. Otterton, my name is Officer Judy Hops. Your wife sent me to find you. We're going to get you out of here." And Otterton is like sort of coming forward. His nose is kind of twitching a bit. But like right as Judy finishes her statement, he pounces up at the glass and starts scratching at it. And they jump back. Her and Judy jump back in surprise. To which Nick remarks, or not, guess he's in no rush to get home to meet the missus.
Fun little joke there for the adults.
Yeah, this is just a bad day at the office for Mr. Otterton here. He just doesn't really want to go home. He wants to go out to a bar somewhere, you know.
He just wants to get savage, and who doesn't want to get savage after being trapped in a relationship?
That's what happens. You have these white collar working mammals who they've given up on their dreams. They've sort of settled into the corporate world, and every now and then they need to blow off some steam and just go savage, you know, just start attacking people. That's how it works.
Mm-hmm.
I think that could be commentary on the savagery we experience in everyday American life as we're oppressed by the evil corporations or something like that. I don't know. This movie's art. It's making a statement.
Yep.
Well, Judy then starts counting. Wait, 11, 12, 13, 14. Not including Monchis, it's 14. Chief Bogo handed out 14 missing mammal files. They're all here. All the missing mammals are right here. And that's amazing because think about how, I just want to imagine what Bogo would be thinking when he finds out that this rabbit that he wasn't taking seriously and didn't even want to assign to a missing mammal case to begin with, gave her a meter maid job, now found not just the one that Bogo decided, fine, you can try and find this one otter, but literally all 14 of the missing mammals that he had talked about at the beginning of the movie. I think Bogo's got some egg on his face here.
Yep. So for Judy, this is kind of her first main job with the police force. Bogo put her on the case assuming she would fail, and not only does she find Manchus, who he did not believe went savage, but she found all the other missing mammals, all conveniently in the same location. So, assuming they get out of here alive, because we don't know who's coming through that door, she's proven herself on the police force.
Yeah, this is going to be... Actually, there is significance in the fact that she did find all of them, too, because it also means this is all one big sort of massive crime ring, right? All these disappearances are connected to each other. These aren't individual disappearance cases. These people were all taken, all kidnapped by the same shadowy organization or whatever criminal kind of ring is going on here. I feel like Judy should get a promotion, assuming everything turns out all right and she gets back on
her first day on the job. It's her first big case. You don't. I guess she could get a promotion, but not.
I mean, just considering she needs something to make up for how poorly she was treated by Bogo, don't you think?
Well, I don't know specifically about the police force, but the military in similar cases, they purposely treat new recruits in this new boot camp mentality because they need to be sure that they could trust these individuals when it comes down to the tough times. They're not going to just welcome them right away. They want to see that, hey, are you really a part of our crew, or you're just a new recruit? Or you're joining us, you're joining our family, you need to prove yourself, so of course they're going to be a little tough on you, but once you prove yourself, hey, you're one of us. I think that's just the mentality that exists in these types of fields.
So you're saying that Bogo's probably just going to do a complete 180 and be like, I knew you had it in you, I was just trying to test you out. Run you through the gauntlet on your first day. No hard feelings. Hops.
If there are other small mammals like Judy in the police force beforehand, then yes, I would say Bogo would do that. But we also have to, if we want to put the metaphor of whatever metaphor you want this world to be, she is the first small mammal, first rabbit in the police force. So I don't think that Bogo was actually confident of her to begin with. Thought of her as just a token bunny, for the mayor.
Bunny. Yeah,
like we said, token bunny.
My mammal inclusion program.
Yeah, so I think he's actually going to be more surprised, wow, I didn't know you had it in you. Awesome job. I apologize. I had you wrong type situation.
We'll see, I guess. All right, well, the very last thing that we see here as this minute ends, after Judy remarks that all the missing mammals are right here, there's a mechanical door opening. From a distance, we look over, we see a silhouette in this window through the door at the end of this corridor here. And then the camera switches back and we realize, oh no, the door's opening. We see this light shining from the door as the crack expands to let more light in. And Nick and Judy are running off to the right side of the screen to try and avoid detection. But that is right where the minute ends. Actually, not a bad spot to end on. Oftentimes we get cut off in the middle, but this was a pretty good place to end, I think. So we'll have to find out if they get caught ending or not. Yeah, it's a good cliffhanger, exactly. Maybe they'll get caught, maybe they won't. And who's coming through the door? Who knows?
Well, assuming we still have a third of the movie to go, most likely they'll be caught.
Maybe.
Who knows? Maybe they'll be experimented on.
Yeah.
We don't know what direction this movie would go.
On the next thrilling episode of Zootopia Minute.
That was such a fun... See, that would have been a fun minute to do at the con.
Well, there's plenty coming up, I guess. So, speaking of cons, we've had a bunch of them lately. Thus, the slowdown in the episode schedule. Just want to thank our listeners again for being patient with us. We know that we don't put out content very regularly, but that just means it's extra meaningful to know that there's those of you who apparently like this show enough to be that patient. So, just thank you guys for being around and listening.
Yep, thank thank you guys very, very much, our loyal listeners out there.
Yeah. So on the subject of cons and stuff, we've been at a lot and we still have quite a few coming up. So if you listen to our previous episode, we were talking a bit about Emerald City Comic Con. And in the time since that episode was recorded, Choco, you've been to one or two more, haven't you?
Yeah, I went to Furry Fiesta, which is a furry con in Dallas, Texas.
Not that you're furry.
Actually, I just came to the conclusion. All furries are bronies, but not all bronies are furries.
Really?
Yep. And speaking of that, I actually was at a My Little Pony convention called Winnie City PonyCon just last weekend, where I kind of broke my retirement because I used to help run a lot of cons a few years ago, and I broke my retirement pack because one of my friends who was running the vendor hall for Winnie City, he happened to be moving around that time and also happened to be at Disney World for the Disney Marathon that same weekend, so he couldn't fill in. So I ended up filling in for him as the at-con vendor head for Winnie City, as well as being a vendor at the con. So a lot of tiredness for me. If you thought I was kind of tired the last episode, and I just came off of mono and was under some medication, so you might have noticed that I was very slow to react. I am also kind of tired this time as well because I probably only got 4 hours of sleep a day at the con last weekend. But both were very fun, and I'll be community guest at a con coming up called Babs Con, the Bay Area Brony Spectacular. So you guys want to see any of my panels, feel free to check that out. Simul couldn't be there because he's going to his own con same weekend. And what con is that?
That's Sakura Con here in Seattle, Washington, the largest anime convention in the Northwest, and a con that I've always said I would never miss for life, which is a problem because it always is the same time as Babs, and I understand why, and I've probably mentioned this on the podcast before, but Easter weekend, holidays, so it's on Easter weekend, and holidays are generally cheaper to rent out a venue like a convention center or a hotel conference space on those holiday dates because they're just in low demand. No one really wants to have their business meeting on a holiday, right? And so oftentimes these conventions can get a cheaper date from the venue by going for these holidays, which is why SakuraCon does it, why it's always on Easter weekend, and I'm sure that has a lot to do with why Babs is always Easter weekend as well. So I've heard a lot of great things about Babs, and I'd love to go, but it's just always on that weekend. Although I don't know, depending on, hopefully they're not ending this year, and if they do it next year, I might as well try and go. Just for I'd be willing to skip SakuraCon once, just so that I can go to Babs, because I've not been to a whole lot of different pony conventions, and it would be good to expand my horizons a bit, see that area of the pony community.
Yeah, and that'll be fun. And if you are there, we'll definitely try to do another live AtCon panel at BabsCon. But we do have a AtCon panel for Zootopia Minute coming up at Everfree Northwest.
That's right.
That you also help run. And that will be in May, the weekend after my birthday weekend.
Yeah, that's right. That should be a lot of fun. We've done that at Everfree many years before, doing a live episode of the show. So if you are going to Everfree, check that out.
I think that'll be our third time.
Yep, it'll be fun.
And we did also try to apply to some furry cons as well, since we do know that we have a good-sized furry audience. Tried applying for Anthrocon, but I completely forgot that the guy who runs the Anthrocon panels department was the guy who I think I kind of pissed off the last time I was doing panels at Anthrocon because he was not running them pretty well, and I kind of called him out on that on stage. So it was just kind of funny to notice that all my panels where he was approving were denied, and the two panels that were accepted were approved by other people in that department, which I thought was kind of funny.
That's funny. He comes back, he's like, who approved these?
Well, I have two panels approved, so I wonder what he'll say. But I don't know why, but there's some really weird passive aggressiveness in the furry fandom. So another con where I'm not going to give names, but I will call them, and they're an awful con of frustrating intruders. I'll just call them ACFI for short. But ACFI, they've been kind of begging me for a few years since I was a Texas local to vend at their cons, and they will come pester me at a few cons the last few times, spamming my table with flyers and saying, please vend at my con, or please vend at our con. And when I tried to apply, their website's so hectic. So apparently this year, I was like, oh, why not? I'll apply just because I have friends on staff who've been asking me to apply. and apparently the person who run the dealer's den, the person who apparently did not like some of my comments of how they were running things previously, she waitlisted me, and apparently there had enough space for everyone except 7 vendors, and mysteriously, even though they've been begging me for years to come vend at their con, they waitlisted me. So that's what happens. They seem to be a little salty and holding grudges at these furry cons.
I know. You'd think that everyone being adults, that wouldn't happen, but no.
I know.
This is just
weird.
how cons work. High school never
On the other
ends.
hand, there is a fantastic brand new furry con, or I guess it's still a new con, called Anthro Northwest, which it's in Seattle, just like Everfree Northwest, and they accepted me. The concierge called me up within half an hour of me applying, and they accepted me right away. So that's how you run cons well, like that. So fun stuff.
That's how you run cons well. You accept all of Chocolate Pony's demands.
Yes, you accept me. You accept all my tables right away. But no. In all fairness, hopefully I'll be doing some panels about conventions. Since we talk about a lot about conventions, I'm actually starting up a podcast about conventions. I'll probably plug that later, and I'll be doing some panels at some cons this summer. But we don't want to go too much in on conventions because we have a lot of news that has happened since the previous episode, and the big one is Disney has officially bought Fox. The purchase of 20th Century Fox has been officially done through Disney. So that means Disney now owns The Simpsons and Family Guy and Avatar, and they don't own Fox News, surprisingly enough.
Wait,
I don't
really?
They don't own Fox. So so the parts of Fox that 20th Century Fox that Disney did not buy spun off into its own corporation called the Fox Corporation.
So they didn't buy like all of News Corporation, or it's
no,
not
they didn't
even
buy
News
News
Corporation.
Corp. The previous name was News Corp, but it's now just called Fox Corporation. The other things they could not buy because of antitrust and monopoly laws in different countries, where they couldn't buy Fox Sports because if you guys don't know, Disney actually owns ABC and ESPN.
Yeah, they've got ESPN World of Sports at Disney World.
Yep, they do. And if they ended up buying Fox Sports, then they would have definitely a monopoly on sports. So they couldn't
Disney
buy any
owns
of that stuff.
all sports.
I know.
You want to play soccer? You got to play Mickey a fee.
But did you see the Walt
fee.
Disney Company website? Like the day after the buyout was completed, if you look at it, like Bart Simpson was on the front.
Oh wow!
So Disney now owns Pixar, Marvel, Jim Henson Company, LucasArts, ABC, ESPN, National Geographic, and 20th Century Fox.
That's crazy.
Is that insane? Like you'd think they own that means it's gonna be like 75% or more of the movies in theaters now are owned by Disney.
Yeah. Hey, but there is something good about this. You know what?
Oh, what is it?
They own Fox and like foxes, like Nick, like Zootopia. You see that?
Oh yeah. You know what? The next Zootopia movie should be done by Fox. Are we really doing these dumb puns?
Fox. They own foxes, all foxes, including Nick. They bought
dumb?
Nick Wilde. Well, they always had Nick Wilde.
Should they just make Nick Wilde the Mickey Mouse of 20th Century Fox?
Just
now?
rename
Like, make him
Disney
the mascot?
to Nick Wilde Corporation.
I would love that. I would love it to be Nick Wilde Corporation.
I'm sure you would.
What are we doing with our lives that this is what we're talking about on our podcast, our Zootopia podcast? We're just talking about foxes.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's a fun merger. So now Disney owns everything. So be on the lookout for that. Pretty
Disney
soon you're going to
owns
see a
everything.
live action Zootopia movie. So
That's our
there you
title
go.
for this episode. Disney owns everything.
Disney does own everything.
That's perfect.
That's
All right.
fun.
Choco, before we go, do you know your booth number for Babs? You want to give that out?
All right, so if you guys want to see me this weekend, Easter weekend at BabsCon, the Bay Area Brony Spectacular at the Hyatt Regency SFO Airport in southern San Francisco, I will be vending at booth J4, J5, and J6 in the vendor hall. And I'll be doing a few panels because I am one of their community guests. So you could check out some of my fun panels, including how to run conventions, my tarot panel, as well as my transformative art panel. So yeah, a lot of fun stuff will be there that weekend.
Awesome. All right. Well, I think that's about all the time we have. That's going to do it for this episode of Zootopia Minute. If you did enjoy the podcast, please be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can also like us on Facebook. You can follow us on Twitter at Zootopia Minute, as always. And if there's anything you want to let us know, your thoughts about the show, comments, suggestions for guests, anything of that nature, you can send those things to zootopiaminute@gmail.com. As always, we just want to thank you guys so much for listening and watching the show. We'll see you next time.
Bye, bye, bye.
Bye.